Now recording. Greetings, comrades. Welcome to the Eastern Border, and I'm really happy to bring you Viktor once again from Ukraine, which is
Hello, everybody.
like a like a fat kid that knows how to use guns. Viktor is once again arrived. I don't even know how to begin to explain this. It was a theme song, okay? It was a theme song, and we love it.
I have a plan with this song also for you, but it's a surprise you will eventually know.
Oh no. But yeah, Victor is in Ukraine currently, and while I'm working on the news episode, I'm gonna mention some stuff about the news, what I've heard, and what's happening. And this one, Victor said that he has things to talk about, which is amazing. So Victor, what's changed? Where are you? What's going on? Give me your best, because you're here, you're there, that is, and our listeners definitely want to hear what's up.
All right, so this is my fourth day now in Ukraine. We have arrived here, just a few days ago, and I came here with an NGO that we both met last time at the border to Ukraine, the Drum, they're called, and they're from Düsseldorf.
Those guys whom we met.
Yeah, exactly.
Those guys. Oh, nice.
Yeah, and the good thing about it is Ben, the guy who created this NGO, he's going to Ukraine basically every month, and now I have a free ticket to Ukraine basically every month, and I'm also planning on using that.
I was really worried because, for one, I didn't even understand how are you going to get there, what's happening, but yeah, that's great. So glad that you contacted them.
Yeah, we're in good hands. We have even 2 cars actually. We have a van and we have another car, not a sports car, not Permoga 1.
I miss Permoga 1.
Me too. Today I was wondering if I maybe would see her because we were at a military academy and there was only cars like Permoga 1. There was only like big SUVs, Porsche, and all of that stuff. But I'll talk about that later. But the good thing is that this time I have a car all the way to Ukraine. So I will not have to carry a 45-kilogram backpack via various trains and other means of transportation to Germany. I can just drive back home. And I don't even have to drive the whole way, which is incredible.
And you will not be sent back at the border.
I really hope not. They gave us some trouble at the border because we looked at one lady the wrong way and she wanted to assert her dominance by putting us into the wrong line.
Oh yeah, it's what I won't think about it. What I wanted to ask you about, like to tie this in with the regular news, basically on the Russian side, they're saying that Russians are trying to counterattack a lot. Well, counterattack to be more precise. The thing is that they're not very good at this. There have been, as far as I know, a lot of these meat assaults once again. Those nasty things. What's the morale on the side of Ukrainians?
I talked to a couple of soldiers already because my goal for this trip is to get to establish solid connections with some soldiers, because in the future and in the winter, I plan on maybe spending a few days with the soldiers as long as I possibly can. And I talked with a few of them, some Ukrainians who are going into the Tokmak direction where Ukraine is doing the offensive. And their situation is quite bleak too. I will get to that also. And then I also got drunk yesterday with a soldier.
Well, that's always a positive.
Yeah. It was very interesting with a guy who was fighting for over a year, I think, with the Belarusians, because the Belarusians have their own unit of foreign fighters. And he was with them, and they fought in the Kharkiv region where Russia is doing their attacks. And they also talked about it that sometimes where there's a troop build-up and things are happening, and everybody says, okay, there's going to be attack, then, oh my God, there was a feint, and they're preparing what's going to happen. And then they found out, nope, actually the feint was the main thing, because logistically they just fucked the whole thing up completely. But the problem is basically Ukraine is doing well. Ukraine has good fighters. Ukraine is well organized and all of that. But they just, even when they push them back, even when they have successes, it's very difficult to handle the whole manpower issue of Russia. Because if you think about it, like every day they're fighting, they're using up resources. It gets more difficult for the state. They're using up manpower. They're using up financial aid and all of that. And Russia's digging in more. And they have just an endless pool of men to send into the meat grinder, and that's what they're doing. So they're talking about killing quite an amount of Russians. Like everybody of them has a positive death ratio, basically, and it's very frustrating to them because still it doesn't end. they are able to fight against the Russians for maybe 1 or 2 years, but after that it might get very difficult for Ukraine to continue fighting. And it's also difficult because many of the supporting nations don't really have a plan with the war in that time.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this is what I keep constantly telling people, that I got a lot of questions where if the Russian side is so incompetent and doing so badly and all that stuff, then why Ukraine isn't winning? Well, let me just tell you, dear listeners, that Russian side's incompetence is what makes it possible for Ukraine to even be able to do as well as they are doing right now. It's just that they have a massive advantage on, especially aviation, planes and everything. So that's a big issue. So what did you find out? What's the biggest thing that surprised you maybe with getting drunk with?
I mean, do you remember the songs that we listened to with the soldier songs and the Marine song that you sent to me? Also,
so many
about
of them.
the killing machine and all of that. But the way they talk about killing is quite bizarre to me. Because I'm not a soldier, and they talk about killing a lot of people, and they're talking about the fun of it, and they're talking about how it's how cool they are doing it, basically, and like how the Americans function. And they say like the Americans basically are killing machines. They just go there, smell blood, and then kill Russians. And how different also many cultures work. Because what I find very interesting is like tactical psychology, how this all works, how people function, and different cultures work apparently also very different as fighters. And that was quite interesting. You have a kind of
do explain, because this is a rare insight that we're getting here. So.
I mean, the Russians he just basically described as idiots and drunkards, but just a lot of men. And then, well, yeah.
Well, see, I can give you some comments on that. There's a point to it, because recently, you probably have missed this, but lately we have because of all these meat assaults, we have a lot of so-called meat assaults. That's what people say. We have a lot of people being very depressed about what's going on in the Russian military, with literally everything, to be honest, because it's not going nice. There's a lot of messages from wives and mothers of the soldiers, and whenever soldiers themselves, state that something's wrong with kind of the supplies and everything, it's pretty bleak. These guys who send these messages and record videos, they tend to die, basically. So that's a bit of an issue.
The unit he was fighting for seemed pretty well supplied, from what I could gather, because also they're in this area where the Russians are constantly attacking, and that's kind of a constant stream of supplies. They're stealing their weapons all the time. They're raiding them and getting their new AK-12s and all of that, and then even supplying other units. I talked to him about the Kraken unit that I worked with the humanitarian department before. We shouldn't call it. They went into villages in the area around Izium, and they are, it's like, those fuckers, they stole our fucking AK-12s, because they are stealing sometimes so many guns that they're just supplying whole other units, and then sometimes the other units take good guns from them. So that's not an issue for them, at least, but other units do have supply problems also, from what I can tell. And that's also what we're working with, because we also, we're organizing right now to get them some supplies, and it's what we will be doing more in this winter also, because they need some stuff, and we can organize that, and we can make fundraisers for that, and as a thank you, they will then hopefully let us film with them and get some interesting stuff. So that, at least for them, I have to talk to Ukrainians, see how their situation is going. But he seemed also really depressed in a different way. Like he couldn't continue fighting. What shocked me a little bit was on his phone, his backgrounds were just like friends of him who died. And he talked to me, this guy is a great guy. He was just 19. He was such a killing machine. He was so good. And he showed me videos with them. And yeah.
This again really just is one of those times when we have to talk about the horrid sides of war, isn't it?
He talked to me about how they kill Russians concretely, which is that they, but you don't shoot at the head, because the head is small and it's moving a lot. You don't shoot at the chest, because the chest is, well, most of the time armored, not always with the Russians, but you shoot at the pelvis, because with a rifle, the pelvis kind of splatters, and it will cut the arteries that are going into the leg, so it will just shatter and damage the guts and all of that. And he was talking about it quite graphically and showed me videos where he said like, oh yeah, at that moment I was kind of fixing this thing, and then I shot a Russian guy. I couldn't see him. The Russian guy, I could only see him shooting, but yeah, bleak.
Yeah, well, like this is quite much a reality check for I know this stuff, but for our listeners, yeah, it's exactly this bleak. In a way, I read about this. You kind of have to dehumanize
Definitely
your opponents, otherwise you won't be able to just kill them, because killing human beings is painful
and you have to normalize
horrible,
it, because like the level of like dark humor, sarcasm, and all of that you have on this show, it's still far below the level of cynicism and
what they have.
And so we got a little drunk, and I was kind of poking my way into his mind more and more, and I was wondering like how far, like what to ask him. And I could basically ask him anything except for one question, which kind of he couldn't answer me, which is, well, he has a girlfriend, he's going back, he's getting married. But I asked him like, what you gonna do after the war? What are you gonna do with the rest of your life? And he studied, and he had jobs and all of that before, but he kind of couldn't answer that question yet. I talked to him about like, he doesn't have a perspective on what to do next. I mean, he's still in Kiev getting drunk just a few days before going back and marrying, but he just couldn't continue with this. He was never wounded, but he can't continue to fight, and it breaks people.
The mental scars are horrible, and this just puts a new tone to this, because currently, as far as I know, these the Russians are sending more and more troops and pointless assaults and losing. We had a video from mothers of various Russian soldiers stating that reports about the wounded and the casualties are coming in every hour. Every hour there's someone gone, and that's just, if you think about it, we look at this from the sense of, oh yeah, Ukrainians are winning. However, it puts a big hurt on the guys doing the fighting.
Yeah,
obviously.
And
I mean,
there's also, I talked also with a friend of mine whose father got injured pretty badly, and she talked me through how all of that went. So they have like a WhatsApp group with the commander and all the wives and mothers of the soldiers, and then every day there's like, oh, these names missing, these names wounded, these names gone. And then look every day in the group, and then one day the father was missing, and then he was missing again, he was missing still, and nobody could talk to them. What happened? They didn't know where he was. And then suddenly he appeared as injured, and they didn't even know where. So they had to themselves call all the hospitals in the Dnipro area and talk to nurses, and then one nurse finally helped them figuring out where her father was, and he got shrapnel in the guts and was then later transferred to a very small village, basically, in the area around Lviv. And also she couldn't really tell me why. She said, like, yeah, he can walk again, he can run again, he's not going to die, he's not in critical condition, but he can never fight again. He can never work again also. And you can also just, she didn't go into details, but you can guess what happened.
Yeah, I mean, I get this, because this is the thing that also people don't really understand. This is why the Western equipment is so much needed, because the soldiers who are fighting constantly all the time, yeah, they're not casualties per se, but they won't be able to fight well at all if this goes on for, I don't know.
Yep, every little comfort makes a difference to those soldiers. And for that also, it's good to know that we can actually do something. Like we organized some evacuation equipment and transport equipment for personnel, so like they can carry wounded out. And basically all these units, it's very interesting. It's very decentralized organization. So with the Ukrainian army, you kind of have, from how I understand it, like the big inefficiencies of like a huge military that is centralized and that has certain things that just go wrong, and those are then very impactful. It's very decentralized. Every unit take care of their own things in a way, But also the soldiers, they're getting paid very well, but then they have to organize their own equipment, but then they have all their press officers and they have the social media channels. They sometimes even have media guys who are editing videos for them, asking for support and all of that. And also in that, it's really cool to connect with them and then see, okay, you actually need this. Okay, let's go grab it, and then we'll meet you there, and then we'll bring you the stuff. It's also pretty cool. But then you kind of more have like these inefficiencies on a smaller scale that system brings with it. But it's very interesting to see. And also again, like we also met with a commander the other day, and the same thing was as with the commander we met in the Transnistria, where the guy, you remember the young guy, when he actually came into the room, I was kind of like smiling at him and like making a joke, like, I don't know what's going on. And he looked at me and I was like smiling, like, I don't know. And then he stood up and was like, oh, I'm the commander. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know that was the commander. I would have not joked with him.
Oh wow. I mean, at this point, I think we kind of could. We kind of could, but like, never expected you to meet him again. Wow.
Oh no, I didn't meet him again. I met a different commander. Actually. But it was the same thing. Like he's just a guy. Like they're not arrogant to you. They don't make you feel like the hierarchy. Like those are very important people. He works directly with Zelensky and has a project for him that I will get into in a little bit. But they don't make you feel like you're below them. Like I compare it to like my situations I had with the German police. Like every one of them so damn arrogant and always makes you feel their authority and always puts you down. But the Ukrainians actually are, even like commanders, even people who are actually very important and super nice to you. And it's really cool to see. And that's like, they seem to actually care about their army quite a lot more than the Russians. So I mean, obviously that's not news, but it's interesting to see. That's interesting to get into that. And even like the commanders now, we're talking with them on WhatsApp and organize the whole thing, calling with them, and it's quite cool. You don't expect that, but it's very, very good, very efficient teams. Yeah, the better if you treat humans as human beings, basically, and not in a
what you don't say. I mean.
Yeah.
How does this even work? But what are your plans for the trip and everything? What are you gonna do next? And what's the battle plan?
Well, so we had contact with two different units. One in the Tokmak direction. One is fighting around somewhere between Bakhmut and Kupiansk. So quite a wide area. They are deployed right now, and they cannot tell us yet where they are. And we are tomorrow in the morning driving to Kharkiv, and we have basically a van with lots of supplies, humanitarian supplies. It's furniture, it's toys for children and kitchen supplies. We have equipment for doctors for eye surgery, I think, from the 70s, like some pretty old stuff, some pretty cool vintage optical stuff also. And we deliver that to different stations, and along the way we will then meet with this battalion and film with them and get as far as we possibly can with them. That's the plan. And then driving south, we are finishing the project that we started, if you remember, when we got into basically in between the Ukrainian and Russian lines to discover this Cossack village. We are going there again because, as it turns out, the footage I got, it's very engaging, let's say, but it's kind of more like found footage because, shockingly, I thought I was holding the camera so still, but it turns out when artillery is shooting kind of in your direction, I did not hold the camera still at all. So the footage is not usable for making a whole video about it. So with Anthony, I'm collaborating on making a project about the lost Cossack villages that got flooded. So that will come out, and also maybe we are then on the way also meeting with the soldier in the Tokmak direction, but let's see. His situation I also want to get into a little bit because he's Ukrainian and very different situation. He's a young guy, I think 23 or something. He studied in Norway after he did his military service, and he thought, yeah, I'm done. He was also in the Donbas region before the full-scale invasion, and kind of thought like, okay, yeah, my whole life is going on. But as we talked before about like, yeah, they're talking trying to be human to the soldiers and the people, but then still they have to draft them. And the situation with that is also kind of bleak because they're not doing this in Kiev, but in Vinica, they're basically kind of going to the street and handing people documents like, all right, you're a soldier now, good luck, and you have a few days and then you're getting deployed. And that's kind of what happened to him. And they are more pessimistic about everything than the foreign soldiers are. He's getting deployed and he's with a unit that's already kind of experienced, so they can kind of basically directly throw them into the whole mess, or not mess, we don't know that much of what's going on, but throw them into the whole Tokmak direction offensive that's going on. And he's not as optimistic as the guy from the Russian units, because he had his whole life going on, and then they just go like, nope, you don't anymore, and you're a soldier now.
So I have like more questions to you related to the news, because we have to switch on to that.
Yeah.
We will of course have Victor on future shows. Like definitely, you have to come on, Fred. You have no choice at this point. But we have a question. Navalny's lawyers, by the way, meanwhile in Russia segment, Navalny's lawyers have now been charged with extremism and passing information to Navalny's associates and everything. They are now charging Navalny's lawyers. Let me just read you from Medusa. Navalny's lawyers have been charged with participating in extremist community for transferring information from Navalny to his team. So that's what lawyers do, basically. How far do you have to go to arrest someone's lawyer for doing lawyer things?
Yeah.
I think this kind of proves that Russia truly is a dictatorship, which EU voted for, by the way, recently. And now Russia is officially a dictatorship.
Nice. So I can ask my lawyer friend, who's actually the guy from the organization. He's a lawyer. I can ask him about that, but I think it's not something that happens in the EU.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Because I never expected a lawyer to be arrested, or just kind of so weird. I don't get why to do this this way. I mean, arresting lawyer. But then again, I think this is what happens. Like I heard a lot of people say that. Well, this is what happens when you just don't talk to these people at all.
Well, I was maybe talking about exposing the lawyers of Navalny as extremists will maybe make some of the Western press reconsider if Navalny actually is an extremist, which he is.
He has issues. I've always said he has issues. Is he an extremist? Not really.
I don't know. It's an extreme country.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to talk also a little bit about... So, we have also been to a very interesting place today, actually, which is why I hit you up and said, okay, we got to record an episode, because we have been to the National Defense University of Ukraine, which is in quite old, amazing buildings somewhere in Kiev, and that was opened up by actually Tsar Nikolai. We took some photos, the same place where Tsar Nikolai stood when he opened up the university there, and there is a really cool project going on. So there's this commander who, as soon as the war started, he got some friends who gifted him some equipment from the Russians and some used up tanks. They found a German MG42 and they gave it to him, and he kind of got this idea that he has to create a museum about the war that is happening today. So as the war is being fought, they are already making quite the effort to create a really, really cool museum about it. So in the basement of this building and all around the area, they have a show, and usually they only show this to NATO delegations, and they showed it to the Dutch delegation after the Dutch gave them the F-16s, and via some context, now we also could go there, and it was quite difficult to get there, and it was really amazing. So they have all kinds of Russian tanks there. They have the air defense systems. They have, outside of this area, we couldn't really film. He took a few pictures of us, but we couldn't film a lot. I will get the pictures hopefully later from him, today or tomorrow. And they showed us the tanks, and they were basically like, yeah, you see this tank, this turret was exploded just next to the Antonov plane, and then they have the pictures already printed out, and we could pictures there with it. And then they have the self-propelled artillery systems and all of that. Like now I kind of have, because I'm not really a military equipment person. I'm not into that too much, But now I'm like, okay, that's an S-125 air defense system. Nice. Now I know how that looks. They have even plans for getting Western equipment there, because if you have like artillery systems, the barrels, after you shoot them for very long, they kind of get used up and you cannot use them anymore. So they have trucks that are going to the front lines. And on the way back, he's actually organizing that all the time. They are taking them then broken Russian equipment back, and they're putting it into this museum. It's quite amazing. So it also shows me that was the guy. That was the other commander that we talked to. He was very nice, very friendly. He was a pretty cool guy. And he also gifted me some things because, as you know, I have this jewelry project.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Well,
what did he give you?
Kind of trash, but it's really cool. So I have this jewelry project with my analog photography, my more artsy stuff that I'm doing. I'm creating jewelry from it, and they are having this really, really cool art project where they are taking things from the war, like, for example, a part of the Antonov plane, and then they're giving that to artists, and artists are drawing anti-war photos or also motivational war paintings and artworks onto the parts themselves. So they have like this amazing painting of the Antonov plane in flames, painted onto a piece of the Antonov plane. And then they have pieces from Bucha, they have pieces from Irpin, they have like, cluster ammunition that was used in Irpin, and they painted on it. Quite macabre sometimes, but it's really amazing. And in between all of that, I will send you some pictures, and I will send them also to the Discord. Everybody go and join the Eastern Border Discord. Making a plug for you.
Thank you. That is important because I think that joining the Discord is one of the best things you can do. That's one. What's two is please, once you're done editing this, please send me the pictures as well.
I will. I have to edit them and then extract the screenshots and do some color grading. But okay, it will be a long night tonight. But also, if you want to know what's going on my trip, I'm also updating them daily on what we're doing here. So you can also follow that on Discord. Or back to what was happening there. It also inspired me. Like, I want to do some anti-war art stuff, and so he gave me some used bullets and some keys found by the Russians, and I even found some stuff that I saw in Kharkiv, and I'm pretty sure like we saw some like destroyed tanks, and then there I'm like, oh my god, that's the same tank, but they took them back to Kiev now, which is pretty cool to see. And it's also amazing because they have things like they have these QR codes on the exhibition pieces where you can then just put your phone on there and then you see the footage from there, and some of the footage is extremely graphic. Like they're not shy about that. They show everything there, and they show like, oh yeah, you see this thing, there's a dead Russian soldier with it.
If that's on camera, then that means now I have to plug you. You're gonna have to follow Victor's Instagram channel
and YouTube especially, because I gotta go to 500 subscribers eventually. That would be great because my YouTube is still quite small and I'm putting a lot of work into it.
Yeah, I know. It's gonna be fine. You'll make it. I kind of want to wrap this up tonight. What's the biggest challenge to you right now?
Oh God,
what's happening?
Well, the biggest challenge for me is since I'm kind of a perfectionist and I have kind of more abstract artistic approach to my projects, and that do takes a lot of time. My struggle is to find sleep and edit the stuff and get my projects out. That's basically my biggest issue. And then I'm also, what I'm working on right now is I'm changing quite a few things in my life, and broke up with my girlfriend, and changing my job and all of that.
Aww.
Also to be able to go to Ukraine more, because I want to be here more and I want to be more connected. I want to follow the same people. This time I'm meeting some people again and all of that. It's the war is not, it's very relevant still. There's lots of shit happening still. If you want to participate actually, and I want to talk about that a little, that's important.
Yeah, sure.
There's lots of things you can do. So if you are in Germany actually, and you have stuff to donate and all of that, especially if you're in the west part of Germany, hit me up. We can use that. We're actually bringing stuff to Ukraine. And if you want to help, you can also go on my Patreon. That would be one way. Or you can even fight. It's actually making a difference. That's also one thing I realized, and I would never thought that I would like talk about that openly. But they need people to go there and help Ukraine. Whatever you do, humanitarian, you want to go and get involved with an NGO, you want to go to NAPO, you want to go on the information front, you want to do some journalism, all of that. Very relevant.
This actually makes sense because for one, I have to say that we have a lot of people with military background, you know, and who listen to the show. A lot of them, 43% to be exact, by the way. So
you did a study.
If you want to go and do something, you know, I won't judge you. It's hard for me to you know, say that people should go and fight, you know, just as well as you do, right?
Yeah.
But maybe sometimes it's the right thing to do, you know, if you think about it.
And there's many ways to fight also. And again, if you're, for example, in Germany, kick the ass of some politicians to fucking send the Taurus missiles. And then that's relevant.
Oh, they still haven't sent them?
No, I think not. Edit this in if they did. I will research it, but I think they didn't. Okay. Yeah, you can do something. If you're a doctor, whatever. Everybody can do something because this is important to wrap up the war very fast. Very, very fast. The more we wait, the more money it also costs you, because think about how much money your state is giving right now that could go into healthcare or whatever, and will get used up in 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years of Ukraine war. You don't want that to happen.
That is also the thing that I've been telling, that I don't know, there's a lot of people who think that this is going to end with some sort of negotiation.
No.
I don't believe that anymore. No. Like I've been telling, look, Victor, this is the thing that I've been telling to the West. People, you know, of like Alex from History Impossible ask me this, and a lot of people like ask me this. It cannot simply end on a negotiation table. I've been to Ukraine multiple times, and once you go there, you understand. I think that's the message, because you really, this has to be like brought through somehow, as terrible as it is.
This is also the stuff that you have been talking about for years. How Putin works, how these gangsters work. It's not news. It's very apparent. Like, these are not politicians because they wear suits. They're gangsters and they're warlords. And I want to just end on one anecdote, if I may.
Okay, sure.
The drunken soldier. Just a very funny story that I had to get in here. We kind of bonded over one thing, which will make you laugh probably. But he talked to me and he said, like, I told him where we're going. And he looked at me like, okay, if you're a soldier. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a soldier, but this is my gun. And I showed him my camera. He was like, okay, then I give you the advice as a soldier. If you're a soldier, first thing, clean your weapon, take care of your weapon, train with your weapon. I kind of really bonded over the fact that I treat my cameras the same way he treats his guns, and that was really funny.
Yeah, it makes for me it's the microphone.
Yeah, and I promised him to actually clean my cameras. So before we go, also tonight, I will clean my cameras because I promised the guy. Yeah.
Okay, Victor, you clean your cameras. We still have Kazakhstan to go to and other places. But Victor, keep up with me. Whenever you can, whenever you have something, get the wire because Victor is going on out there with like the same microphone that I used for my temporary microphone for a while. Get the wire for that, because you can plug it in your laptop and use it as your regular microphone.
Yeah, I will. Also,
just plug it in and do that.
I literally just look to my right and I see the wire that I need laying on Anthony's desk. So that's also fixed.
Excellent. Keep in touch. And thank you for being on. And for all of you, everyone out there, please support Victor. Support me as well, please, if you don't mind. До свидания, товарищи. And as always, happiness is mandatory.